Do you remember when tipping culture began to change? A couple of kinds of behavior entered the zeitgeist, all typical. When the iPad was flipped around, the best among us clicked 25%, most $1 every now and then, and the worst went to Facebook to complain about it. We all assumed that the bar was well established, and we carried on with our lives. A few weeks ago, though, I encountered something that changed my understanding of Tipflation. Something cunning, something political. I believe the pieces were being set for economic carnage, and the Republican vultures involved were the ones setting it all up so they could have this grand feast. Funnily enough, a group of vultures is actually called a committee. It's not because of the poor reputation of politicians, though. They're called a committee because they look distinguished, like they call the shots. Unfortunately for us, the vultures that I'm talking about, the Republicans and oligarchs, have poor reputations, and they call the shots too. And that committee, perched up high, is using their leverage to set a new low, hawking up legislative slop to pay the average American less. Their grand plan culminates in a bill called the Tipped Employee Protection Act. We'll get to that in due time. First, the curtain's got to be pulled back. Their scheme has to be made plain. The plot doesn't call for public discussion and debate. That's for nobler truths. Rather, the name of the game is deceit. They can't spill their guts, because average people can't even manage a whiff of the filth that they gorge themselves on. So to keep them the rot, their stomachs churn. Each twist and omission, each belch, just another rationalization. What always comes up is putrid dogma, though. Supply-side drivel and sputterings about unleashing the economic beast. They're unleashing a beast, all right. A predator, which preys upon the working class, causing carnage and wreaking havoc on working-class Americans so they can swoop down and stuff themselves silly. It's dogma which brings us all about. Dogma which lulls powerful minds into a kind of moralist stupor. To pass through it, we must stand essential, at least for a few moments. You can bend your nose if things get tough, though. The dogma begins with a union of two theories, incentive theory and supply-side economics. Incentive theory is a basic part of modern economics. It holds that rewards and punishment encourage desired behavior. Conservatives view tipping as an ideal incentive. It scales the amount of tip to the quality of service. Tipflation, by extension, is living proof of this belief and a catalyst for lowering employer-based wages. Consumers are shouldering more of the burden like they should. Therefore, employers should theoretically owe less. As I alluded to before, this sounds horrible in a vacuum. Reducing the overall incentive for good work flies in the face of the theory. It's just nonsensical. So conservatives conceal their position by doing a bait and switch. Instead of revenue earned from anti-labor policy, it's couched under deregulation, which is a much safer and ambiguous term. It would simply be a fool's errand to promote economic gains at the expense of lower wages. So equivocation is offered right out of the gates. The fallacy doesn't end there, though. They have to sell the equivocation. Not everyone is raring to accept deregulation at face value. This is where the supply-side argument comes into play. Theoretically, the savings earned from deregulation is reinvested across the economy. This increases supply, lowers demand, and subsequently, the cost of living. A rising tide lifts all boats, as the wise say. Deregulation benefits everyone in the end. But the thing is, not only do the tides sink to high heaven, but they aren't even as calm as they'd like to believe. The argument, at its best, even when we ignore the equivocation, doesn't work, because supply-side economics in this specific context doesn't benefit the party in question, the working class. Consider David Hope and Julian Lindbergh's paper, The Economic Consequences of Major Tax Cuts for the Rich. It finds that gains in GDP via tax cuts to be heavily concentrated in the highest income brackets. Not only are they omitting the input, the labor savings, they're also overgeneralizing who receives the output. The wealth garnered from labor savings concentrates at the top. What conservatives are ultimately supporting is a kleptocratic policy, which again, they're well aware about. That's why they need to choke down the truth. The funny part is, it doesn't even take an economic summary to come to this conclusion. Their intentions are made plain by the results of their strategy. All we need to do is just read the damn bill they're using to achieve it. Enter last stage, the Tipped Employee Protection Act. The Tipped Employee Protection Act is a Republican draft bill, currently sitting in the House as of the recording of this video. It was initially marketed as a way to simplify reporting standards. Charming, but a misleading party line nonetheless. You see, when average hourly tips rise above state minimum wage during the pay period, employers can replace the minimum wage with tipped minimum wage for certain non or low tipped labor. Tipped minimum wage ranges from $2.13 to $15.50, depending on the state. So the end result would be a severe garnishment of wages. Employees stand to lose thousands per year, while employers would gain labor for pennies on the dollar. The wallets of the working class end up even lighter than before, which couldn't happen at a worse time. Financial pressure is mounting in the US. The price of necessities have outpaced wages for quite some time now. Affordability is in vogue amongst voters as a result. Ideally, a heavier tip jar should bring employees satisfaction, not add to their worries. So why are we seeing small comforts twisted into shameless punishments? Well, I hate to break it to you, but the Republican Party is filled to the brim with compulsive schemers and depraved opportunists. It isn't in the nature of an opportunist to let good things be. So they tip the scales by hawking legislation which degrades society. The worst part about it is that they do this in broad daylight and expect no one to notice. But I notice, and I'm disgusted by it. And it seems that even other Republicans are too. Whether due to possessing a shred of decency or through pure self-preservation, 6 House Republicans stood against the broader conservative labor agenda. As a result, the Tipped Employee Protection Act became collateral damage from inter-party strife. Their broader labor agenda was ultimately shelved. But it isn't out for the count yet. The lame duck session is almost upon us. These sessions have a habit of bringing certain policies back from the brink. A political melee will ensue, culminating in a massive omnibus package which spans the entire US political spectrum. Laced within it will be the remnants of this labor agenda, which could include, you guessed it, the Tipped Employee Protection Act. It's another opportunity for carnage, and the vultures can't let it pass. So the churning begins. The bile rises once more, and dogma will belch forth, all to make room to feast upon the working class. So yeah, it's been about 8 months. I'm not going to bore you with the details. Just know that my next video is time sensitive, so it has to be out exactly a month from now. Anyways, if you like this video, please feel free to comment, subscribe, press the notification bell, and give a thumbs up. All that good stuff. See you all next month's video.